Overlord Krath stood on the bridge of his massive warship and looked at the stars. Behind him, 40 warships followed in perfect formation. They were the fist of the Veth Dominion, and they had never known defeat. The Veth were tall creatures with hard skin like armor. They had 4 arms and eyes that could see in the dark. For 1,000 years, they had moved across the galaxy and taken world after world. No species had ever stopped them. No species had ever come close. Krath turned to the holographic display floating in the center of the bridge. It showed a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. The planet was called Sigma-7 by its inhabitants. Soon, it would have a Veth name. What do we know about this world? Krath asked. Sub-Commander Torek stepped forward. He was younger than Krath and hungry for glory. It is a farming colony, Overlord. 50,000 of the creatures live there. They call themselves humans. Humans, Krath repeated the strange word. Show me. The display changed to show images of the alien species. Krath studied them with cold interest. They were small and soft. They had only 2 arms. Their skin was thin and easily broken. They lived short lives and healed slowly from wounds. Torek laughed. They are weak, Overlord. Like all the others. They will fall before our ships even touch the ground. Krath said nothing. He had heard these words many times before, and every time, they had been true. The Veth had conquered over 200 worlds. Some species had tried to fight. Some had tried to run. Some had begged for mercy. In the end, all of them had fallen. A door opened behind them, and Seer Miva entered the bridge. She was old, even by Veth standards. Her 4 arms were thin and weak, but her mind held power that others could not understand. She could see into the future, and her visions had guided the Dominion for generations. Seer, Krath said with respect, what do you see for this world? Miva closed her eyes. The bridge fell silent. Even the humming of the ship seemed to grow quiet as she reached out with her mind. I see victory, she said finally. The planet will fall within 3 rotations of their sun. The humans will kneel before us, as all species do. There is nothing special about this world. Torek smiled with satisfaction. You see, Overlord? Another easy conquest. Krath nodded slowly. But something in Miva's voice made him pause. For just a moment, he thought he saw doubt in her ancient eyes. Then it was gone, and he told himself he had imagined it. Prepare the fleet for orbital approach, he commanded. We will give them one chance to surrender. When they refuse, we will show them the price of resistance. Far below, on the surface of Sigma-7, life continued as normal. Farmers worked in their fields under the warm sun. Children played in the streets of small towns. Families sat down to eat their evening meals. They did not know that death was coming from the stars. Dr. Yuna was working late in her laboratory when the alarms started. She was a scientist who studied the air and weather of the planet. She was not a soldier. She had never held a weapon in her life. When the red lights began to flash and the sirens began to scream, she did not understand what was happening. She ran outside and looked up at the sky. Her heart stopped. The sun was disappearing. No, not disappearing. Each one was larger than anything she had ever seen. People were running and screaming all around her. Parents grabbed their children. Old people stumbled and fell. The peaceful colony had become a scene of terror in seconds. Sergeant Kite appeared beside her. He was the leader of the colony's small defense force. Just 50 soldiers to protect 50,000 people. He looked up at the sky, and Yuna saw something in his eyes that she did not expect. Not fear. Anger. Get to the bunkers, he said to her. Get everyone underground. Now, what are you going to do? She asked. Kite checked his weapon. It was small and old. It would do little against the monsters coming from the sky. He knew this. Everyone knew this. I am going to fight, he said simply. Yuna wanted to tell him it was hopeless. She wanted to tell him to run and hide like everyone else. But the look in his eyes stopped her. There was something there that the Veth had never seen in any species before. It was the look of a man who knew he would die and had decided to die standing. She ran toward the bunkers with the other civilians. Behind her, she heard Kite shouting orders to his soldiers. 50 men and women against an alien armada. It was madness. It was suicide. It was human. Light years away, aboard the battleship Indomitable. Lieutenant Hana stared at her screen with wide eyes. She read the message 3 times to make sure she understood. "Captain," she said, her voice tight. "We have a distress call from Sigma 7. They are under attack. Unknown alien force. They are requesting immediate help." Captain Teho rose from his chair. He was a man of 50 years, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He had fought in 3 wars and lost many friends. He had hoped to never fight again. He read the message and was silent for a long moment. "How long to reach them?" he asked. 6 hours at maximum speed, sir. We may be too late." Teho looked at the star map showing the tiny dot that was Sigma 7. 50,000 people. Farmers and scientists and children. They were counting on someone to come and save them. "Set course," he said. "Maximum speed. Push the engines beyond their limits if you have to. Sir, if we arrive and they are already gone, then we will avenge them," Teho said quietly. "Either way, we go. We always go." The Indomitable turned in the darkness of space and began to race toward a battle it might not win. Behind it, the stars watched in silence, as they always did. The first attack came at dawn. Overlord Krath stood on his bridge and watched the energy beams fall from his ships like rain made of fire. They struck the largest settlement on Sigma 7, and buildings turned to dust and flame. The message was clear. Surrender, or everything will burn. This was how the Veth always began. A show of power. A taste of destruction. Every species they had conquered had seen this display and understood that resistance was pointless. Within hours, leaders would come begging for mercy. Within days, the planet would belong to the Dominion. Krath waited for the surrender signal. It did not come. "Send the landing craft," he ordered. Torek smiled. Finally. I was growing tired of waiting. Torek, 20 Veth landing craft descended through the smoke-filled sky. Each one carried 100 warriors armed with weapons that could cut through stone. They expected to find a broken people ready to kneel. They expected easy victory. They did not expect Sergeant Kite. The first landing craft touched the ground near the civilian bunkers. Its doors opened, and Veth warriors poured out with weapons raised. They saw a small group of humans standing in their path, 50 soldiers in simple uniforms with simple guns. The Veth laughed. This would take only moments. Then, the humans opened fire. The Veth armor was strong, but human bullets found the weak points. 2 warriors fell before they understood what was happening. Then 3 more. The humans did not run. They did not hide. They stood their ground and kept shooting. Kite moved among his soldiers, shouting orders. "Hold the line. Protect the bunkers. They do not get past us." A Veth warrior charged at him with a blade that glowed with deadly energy. Kite rolled aside and shot the creature in its eye. It fell with a scream that did not sound like any animal he had ever heard. Around him, his soldiers were dying. Their weapons were weaker. Their armor was thinner. They were falling one by one, but they did not retreat. Not a single human turned to run. On the Veth command ship, Overlord Krath watched the battle through cameras on the ground. His 4 hands gripped the railing tightly. "They are dying," Torek said beside him. "They know they cannot win. Why do they not yield?" Krath did not answer. He watched a human soldier take a wound that would have made any other species fall. Instead, the human kept fighting until a second wound finally brought him down. And even then, He crawled toward the enemy until his body stopped moving. Overlord? Torek pressed. What is wrong? I do not know, Krath said quietly. I do not understand these creatures. In the bunkers below the ground, Dr. Yuna worked without rest. Wounded soldiers were brought to her, and she did what she could with limited supplies. She was not a medical doctor, but she learned fast. She had to. Around her, thousands of civilians waited in fear. Children cried for parents they might never see again. Old people prayed to gods that seemed very far away. But something strange happened as the hours passed. The panic faded. People began to help each other. A farmer named Dong Su organized food distribution. A teacher named Su Min kept the children calm with stories and games. A retired engineer named Byung Ho found ways to strengthen the bunker doors. They did not just wait to die. They prepared to survive. Yuna found a moment to check the communication equipment. The main antenna was destroyed, but she had an idea. Using parts from the laboratory and equipment the engineer provided, she built a signal booster. It was crude and weak, but it might reach beyond the alien fleet. She sent the distress message again and again. She did not know if anyone was listening. She did not know if help would come. But she refused to give up. It was not in her nature. It was not in human nature. On the surface, the battle continued. The Veth pushed forward with overwhelming force. Kite lost soldier after soldier. His ammunition ran low. His body was covered with wounds and blood, but he kept fighting. He had made a promise to protect the civilians in the bunkers. He would keep that promise until his heart stopped beating. A Veth commander approached him with 20 warriors at his back. The alien was huge, almost twice Kite's size. Its armor was decorated with symbols of conquered worlds. You fight well for a soft creature, the Veth commander said in broken human language. But this is over. Surrender now. And some of your people may live. Kite raised his gun. It had only 3 bullets left. We do not surrender, he said. The Veth commander laughed. You will die. Maybe, Kite said. But I will die free. Can you say the same? He fired 3 times. 2 bullets struck the commander's chest. The third found his throat. The massive alien fell to the ground, dead, before he knew what happened. Then the other Veth warriors were upon Kite, and he fell beneath their blades. But he had bought time. Precious minutes for the people in the bunkers. Precious minutes for the help that was racing across the stars. Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Tejo pushed his ship harder than it was ever meant to go. The engines screamed. Warning lights flashed. Engineers reported stress fractures in the hull. How much longer? He asked. Lieutenant Hana checked her instruments. 4 hours, sir. We are receiving updated transmissions from the planet. The colony is under heavy attack. Their defense force is almost gone. Tejo closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about the soldiers dying on that distant world. Brave men and women, buying time with their lives. Can we go faster? The engines may fail, Hana warned. May fail is not will fail. Push them harder. Hana nodded and gave the order. The Indomitable shook and groaned as its engines burned beyond all safety limits. But it moved faster. Every minute saved was a life that might survive. In the darkness of space, a single human battleship raced toward an alien armada. Its crew knew they might be flying to their deaths. They went anyway, because that is what humans do. They go toward the fire, not away from it. They run toward the screaming, not away from it. They fight when they cannot win. Because sometimes fighting is more important than winning. The Veth had never met creatures like this. They were about to learn a lesson that would change everything they believed about the universe. Humans do not know how to give up. The Veth sensor officer stared at his screen with confusion. He checked the readings twice, then a third time. Finally, he turned to face Overlord Krath. My lord, we are detecting an incoming vessel. Krath barely looked away from the planet below. The ground battle was almost over. The last human defenders had fallen. and his forces were cutting through the bunker doors. Victory was moments away. A ship? From where? From the inner human systems. It will arrive within minutes. Torek laughed from his station. One ship? They send one ship against our fleet? These creatures are more foolish than I thought. Krath said nothing. Something cold moved through his chest. He did not know what it was. The Veth had no word for this feeling, because they had never felt it before. Show me the vessel, he commanded. The main display changed to show the approaching ship. The bridge fell silent. It was not beautiful like Veth warships, which were curved and elegant and built to inspire fear through their grace. This ship was ugly. It was brutal. It was covered in thick armor plates and weapons that pointed in every direction. It looked like something built for one purpose only: to destroy and to survive. What is that thing? Torek whispered. The ship grew larger on the display as it came closer. Its hull was marked with strange human symbols and a name written in their language: Indomitable. Then the human ship did something that made every Veth on the bridge stop breathing. It did not slow down. It did not try to hide or maneuver to safety. It accelerated directly toward the Veth fleet, weapons already powering up. A communication signal came through. Captain Teho's voice filled the Veth bridge. Attention, alien vessels. You are in violation of human sovereign space. You have attacked human civilians. Withdraw immediately, or you will be destroyed. The message ended. There was no negotiation, no request for talks, no fear. One ship against 40, and the humans were giving orders. Torek recovered first. Overlord, permission to destroy this insect. Krath nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the human battleship. Send 4 ships. End this quickly. 4 Veth cruisers broke formation and moved to intercept the Indomitable, their weapons charged with deadly energy. Each cruiser had defeated enemy fleets on its own. Together, they were more than enough to handle one ship. The first cruiser opened fire. Blue energy beams streaked across space and struck the human vessel. The Veth officers waited to see the explosion. The Indomitable kept coming. Its shields flickered and flared, but they held. The ship shook from the impact, but it did not slow down. Then, its own weapons spoke. The Veth had never seen weapons like these. They were not elegant energy beams. They were solid metal projectiles, fired at incredible speed. Railguns, the humans called them. They punched through the Veth cruiser's armor like paper. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire and twisted metal. Silence filled the Veth bridge. The second cruiser tried to turn away. It was too slow. The Indomitable fired again, and another Veth ship died. Then the third. Then the fourth. 4 Veth cruisers destroyed in less than a minute. All by one human ship. Overlord Krath gripped his command chair so hard that the metal bent under his fingers. Seer Miva. Come to the bridge. Now. Miva arrived moments later. Her old face was pale and troubled. She had felt the deaths of 4 ships through her visions. She had felt something else too. Something she could not explain. Read the future, Krath commanded. Tell me how this battle ends. Miva closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She had done this 10,000 times before. She had seen the fall of empires and the death of worlds. Her visions had never been wrong. This time, there was nothing. She pushed harder. Pain shot through her head. Blood dripped from her nose. Still, she saw nothing but darkness and fire. She collapsed to the floor. I cannot see, she gasped. I see nothing. Only flames. Only death. The future is hidden from me. Torek looked at her with disgust. Useless old creature. We do not need visions. We have 40 ships. They have 1. But Krath was watching the battle outside. The Indomitable had not stopped. It was moving through his fleet like a predator through prey. 2 more ships were burning. 3 more were crippled. All ships engage, he ordered. Destroy that vessel at any cost. On the surface of Sigma 7, the Veth ground forces received new orders. Stop the bunker assault. Prepare for evacuation. Something had gone wrong in space. Sergeant Kite was not dead. His body was broken and bleeding, but his heart still beat. He lay in the rubble where he had fallen, too weak to move. Through his blurring vision, he saw the Veth soldiers stop their attack and look up at the sky. Explosions lit up the darkness above the clouds. Bright flashes like lightning, but lasting longer. The sound of distant thunder rolled across the ruined colony. "What is happening?" a Veth soldier asked. An officer checked his communicator. His face changed in ways that Kite could not read. "We are leaving. Now. All units back to the landing craft." The Veth began to retreat. Kite watched them go with blood-filled eyes. He did not understand what had changed, but he knew one thing. Someone had come for them. In the bunkers, Dr. Yuna heard the distant explosions too. The people around her fell silent, afraid to hope. Then her communication equipment crackled with static, and a human voice came through. "Sigma 7. This is the UES. Indomitable. We have engaged the enemy fleet. Hold on. Help is here." Yuna fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. Around her, people began to cry and hug each other. Children laughed without knowing why. A ship had come. One ship against an armada. And somehow, impossibly, it was winning. Above the planet, Captain Taeho stood in the center of his burning bridge. Smoke filled the air. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. But his ship was still fighting, and his crew was still alive. "Status report," he said calmly. Lieutenant Hana coughed through the smoke. "Shields at 30%. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. We have lost 16 crew members, but we have destroyed 12 enemy vessels and crippled 8 more. And the colony? Enemy ground forces are retreating to their landing craft. The civilians are safe." Taeho allowed himself a small smile. "Then we continue. Target the next ship." Taeho, the Indomitable, turned toward its next victim. Wounded and burning, it refused to stop. It refused to die. Overlord Krath watched the monster approaching and finally understood the cold feeling in his chest. It was fear. 20 Veth warships surrounded the Indomitable like wolves around a wounded bear. Energy beams cut through space from every direction. The human battleship twisted and turned, but there was no escape. It was trapped. On the bridge, Captain Taeho gripped his chair as another explosion rocked the ship. A ceiling panel fell and struck an officer. Fire erupted from a broken console. Through the chaos, his voice remained steady. "All batteries continue firing. Target their engines. I want them crippled, not destroyed." Lieutenant Hana worked her controls with bleeding fingers. She understood the strategy. Dead ships were just obstacles. Crippled ships were nightmares. They blocked firing lines, called for help, and created confusion. Human tactics were cruel and clever. A Veth cruiser lost its engines and began to drift. Another ship tried to avoid it and exposed its weak belly to human guns. The Indomitable did not miss. The cruiser split in half. "Shields failing," an engineer shouted. "We cannot take much more." "Then we give more than we take," Taeho replied. "Fire everything." On the Veth flagship, Overlord Krath watched the battle with growing horror. His fleet was winning, but the cost was unthinkable. 14 ships destroyed, 9 more crippled and burning, all by a single enemy vessel that refused to die. "Why do they not retreat?" he asked no one in particular. Subcommander Torek had no answer. His earlier arrogance was gone. His 4 hands shook as he watched another Veth ship explode. Seer Maiva stood in the corner of the bridge, her eyes unfocused and strange. She was whispering words that made no sense, seeing visions that would not stay still. "They do not fight to win," she said suddenly. "They fight so that others may live." Their lives are short, so they spend them freely. They are not afraid of death, because they have found things worth dying for. Krath stared at her. What are you saying? I am saying we made a terrible mistake coming here. On the planet below, the Veth retreat had become a disaster. Ground soldiers rushed to their landing craft as explosions lit up the sky above them. Their commanders screamed orders. But discipline was breaking. Sergeant Kite was carried to the bunkers by 2 civilians who had risked their lives to find him. He was more dead than alive, but his eyes were open. He saw the Veth running. We held them, he whispered through bloody lips. We held. Dr. Yuna met him at the bunker doors. She had prepared medical supplies and a place for him to rest. When she saw his wounds, she wanted to cry. Half the bones in his body were broken. He had lost more blood than she thought a person could lose. You should be dead, she said. Kite managed a weak smile. Later, I have things to do first. She began treating his wounds while listening to the battle above. The Indomitable was still fighting, still alive. But the reports coming through the radio were grim. The ship was heavily damaged. Its shields were gone. Its crew was dying. They are sacrificing themselves for us, she realized. Kite nodded. That is what we do. It is what makes us human. Above the planet, Captain Teho made a decision. The Indomitable was dying. Its weapons were failing. Its crew was reduced by half. They could not win this battle, but they could end it. Hana, he said quietly. Plot a collision course with the enemy flagship. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death today. Captain, that ship carries their leader. If we destroy it, the others may retreat. It is our only chance to save the colony. Hana was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. Course plotted, sir. 4. Teho pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands. This is the captain. I am ordering all non-essential crew to the escape pods. You have served with honor. Now I need you to live, so you can tell people what happened here. Those who wish to stay may stay. But there is no shame in leaving. The escape pods launched one by one. But not everyone left. Na remained at her station. The weapons officer stayed. The engine crew kept working. Nearly 100 crew members chose to stay and fight to the end. Teho looked at them with pride that broke his heart. Let us show them how humans die. The Indomitable turned toward the Veth flagship and began to accelerate. It was burning from a dozen wounds. Bodies floated in its broken corridors. But its engines still worked, and its heart still beat. Overlord Krath saw what was coming. His sensors showed the human ship on a direct collision course with his vessel. They were going to ram him. They are insane, Torek screamed. They are actually insane. No, Krath said quietly. They are something else. Something we have never seen before. The human ship grew larger in the viewport. It was a terrible thing, covered in fire and metal scars. But it was also beautiful in a way that Krath could not explain. It was the beauty of courage. It was the beauty of courage. The beauty of creatures who would rather die on their feet than live on their knees. For a moment, he wanted to let them hit. He wanted to feel what it was like to be destroyed by such enemies. It would be an honorable death. Then survival instinct took over. All ships retreat, he ordered. Jump to faster than light. Now, Overlord Torek began. Now, the Veth flagship's engines roared to life. Space bent and twisted around it. At the last possible second, the ship vanished into the safety of faster-than-light travel. The Indomitable passed through empty space where its target had been moments before. It drifted forward, wounded and exhausted but still alive. On the bridge, Captain Teho slumped in his chair. Hana stared at her screen with tears in her eyes. They ran, she said. They actually ran from us. 18 Veth ships had escaped into faster-than-light. 22 remained as burning wreckage around Sigma 7. The greatest fleet the Dominion had ever sent to conquer a world had been broken by one human battleship. Tejo looked at his battered crew. He looked at the damaged bridge and the fires still burning in the corridors. He thought about the friends he had lost and the lives that had been sacrificed. "Send a message to Earth," he said. "Tell them Sigma 7 is secure. Tell them the Veth are retreating." He paused. "Tell them we are still here, on the planet below." The remaining Veth soldiers surrendered. They dropped their weapons and raised their arms. They had seen what happened to their fleet. They had no will to fight anymore. The colonists emerged from their bunkers into the smoke-filled dawn. They looked up at the sky and saw human rescue ships arriving. They saw the wreckage of alien warships falling through the atmosphere like dying stars. They saw the Indomitable, still in orbit, still standing guard over them. Dr. Yuna held Kite's hand as he drifted into unconscious sleep. His wounds were severe. But he would live. They had all lived, because one ship and its crew had decided that no human life was worth less than their own. That is the human way. We go into the fire together. We save each other, or die trying. And sometimes, against all odds, we win. The Veth Dominion Council met in their great hall for the first time in 50 years. The hall was built to celebrate victory. Its walls were covered with the symbols of conquered worlds. Its ceiling showed maps of the Dominion's vast territory. It was a room that had never known defeat. Today, it learned. Overlord Krath stood before the 7 members of the council. His uniform was torn and burned. He had not cleaned himself or changed his clothes since the battle. He wanted them to see what war with humans looked like. "Tell us what happened," the first counselor commanded. "Tell us how you lost 22 ships to a single enemy vessel." Krath was silent for a long moment. Every Veth in the hall waited for his answer. Some expected excuses. Some expected lies. What they got was the truth. "The humans are not like other species," he began. "They are physically weak. Their technology is not superior to ours. By all measures, they should have fallen like every other world we have conquered." He paused and looked at each council member in turn. But they did not fall. They fought. Their soldiers knew they could not win, and they fought anyway. Their colonists knew they might die, and they still helped each other. When their battleship arrived, its captain knew he was facing impossible odds, and he attacked without hesitation. The first counselor leaned forward. "I am saying victory would cost more than we can afford to pay. The humans do not fight like other species. They do not surrender when the battle is lost. They do not run when death is certain. They spend their lives like coins, buying time for others to survive." Another counselor spoke up. "One planet resisted. One ship fought well. That does not mean the entire species is dangerous." Krath shook his head. "You do not understand. The Indomitable was not special. It was one ship among hundreds. Its crew were ordinary soldiers, not legendary warriors. If ordinary humans can do what they did at Sigma 7, what will happen when we face their entire military?" The hall fell into troubled silence. Seer Miva stepped forward. She had returned with Krath, and she had not slept since the battle. Her eyes were dark with visions she could not escape. "I have studied these creatures," she said. "I have looked into their history. They are a species born of struggle. Their world tried to kill them for thousands of years, and they survived. They killed each other in terrible wars, and they rebuilt. Every disaster made them stronger. Every defeat taught them new ways to fight." She turned to face the council directly. "They call themselves the children of Earth. But I think they are something else. They are the children of fire. And fire cannot be conquered. It can only be contained or avoided." The first counselor sat back in his chair. "What do you recommend?" Krath answered. "We leave them alone. We mark their territory on our maps and never enter it again. We watch them from far away and pray they never decide to watch us back." On Sigma 7, spring arrived 3 months after the battle. The ruins were being cleared. New buildings were rising from the ashes. Children who had hidden in bunkers were now playing in fields of young crops. Dr. Yuna had become the colony's leader. She had not wanted the job, but the people chose her anyway. They remembered how she had kept them alive in the darkness. They trusted her to lead them into the light. She walked through the new town center, greeting farmers and builders by name. Everyone was working together. Everyone had a purpose. The attack had nearly destroyed them, but it had also shown them what they could do when they stood united. Dr. Yuna, a voice called out. She turned to see Sergeant Kite walking toward her. His legs were still weak, and he used a cane, but he was walking. The doctors had said he would never walk again. He had proven them wrong. Sergeant, how are you feeling today? Alive, he said simply. Which is more than I expected. They walked together through the town, past the memorial that had been built for those who died in the attack. It was a simple stone wall, with names carved into its surface. Farmers and soldiers side by side. Ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. I received a message from Earth, Yuna said. The Council is sending more ships to protect us. Orbital defense platforms too. They say Sigma-7 will be one of the most protected colonies in human space. Kite nodded. The Veth woke them up. They know now that we are not alone in the universe, and not everyone out there wants to be friends. Do you think they will come back? Kite looked up at the blue sky. The sun was warm on his face. Somewhere above them, the rebuilt Indomitable orbited in silent watch. Maybe not them, but others like them. There are a lot of stars out there, and a lot of species who think might makes right. Does that worry you? He smiled slightly. No, because now they know something too. They know that humans fight back. They know that we do not break easily. They know that taking our worlds is possible, but it will cost them more than they can afford to pay. He turned to look at her directly. We are small and soft and short-lived. We are not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest species in the galaxy, but we have something they do not. We have each other. We fight for each other. We die for each other. And that makes us more dangerous than any weapon ever made. On Earth, Admiral Wu Jin stood before the United Human Council. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from every human world. They had gathered to hear his report and decide the future of their species. The Veth Dominion has officially declared human space as forbidden territory, he announced. Their fleet will not enter our borders. Their scouts will not approach our colonies. For now, we are safe. Applause filled the chamber, but Wu Jin raised his hand for silence. This is not a permanent peace. It is a pause. The galaxy has noticed us now. Some species will fear us. Some will hate us. Some will try to test us, like the Veth did. He looked around the chamber at the faces of humanity's leaders. We must be ready. We must build more ships, train more soldiers, develop better technology. Not because we want war, but because others may bring war to us. The universe is not safe, and we cannot pretend otherwise. He paused and let his words sink in. But we should also remember something. We did not win at Sigma-7 because we had better weapons. We won because our people refused to surrender. Because one ship's crew was willing to die for strangers. Because ordinary farmers and scientists became heroes when they had to be. That is our true strength. That is what will protect us in the years to come. Not just our guns, but our hearts. Not just our ships, but our souls. Far away, in the cold depths of Veth space, Overlord Krath sat alone in his private chamber. The room was dark. He had turned off all the lights because he did not want to see the faces of his dead soldiers staring at him from his memories. On his desk was a file containing everything the Dominion knew about humanity. Their history, their biology, their technology, their culture. He had read it 100 times. One thing stood out above all others. A quote from an ancient human text that the translators had found. He did not know who had written it or when, but the words had burned themselves into his mind. It is not the size of the dog in the fight that matters. It is the size of the fight in the dog. Krath closed the file and stared into the darkness. We should have left them alone, he said to the empty room. We should have left them alone, but it was too late now. The galaxy had met humanity, and nothing would ever be the same again.